Whoop. Hey, hold up. OBS is doing it again. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Come on. Come on, OBS, turn on. Come on, come on, come on. I have too many things open, goddamn. Hey! Let's go. It's me. Honey. Okie dokie, and welcome to VTuber 101 Infrastructure, where I will try again to do a not completely borked, scuffed recording of this section of the VTuber 101 series. Now, in this series we'll be covering like a whole bunch of different things, but before we get started, before we talk about any of that, I just need to do a couple of, things, because we are going to talk about infrastructure and it's a very heavy topic, but just set your expectations. I'm not a AAA streamer. I never claimed to be AAA streamer. I'm not the best. I'm not gangster. I don't know absolutely everything. I know just a few things that you would need to know to make your life as a VTuber just a little bit more comfortable. Now, for the purposes of this presentation, we are going to define infrastructure as any hardware, be it your PC, your screen, your VR headset, any software such as Live2D, OBS, or Steam, or anything else such as internet, antivirus, or cloud storage that is needed for your content creation. Now, depending on what you're wanting to do, this list of things may look completely different based on your goals, based on your objectives, but hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this presentation regardless. Now, if you want to go more in depth on certain parts of this presentation, or you feel as though things need to be expanded on more, I'll take notes, and when I reach affiliate, I'll touch base on those things more, or I'll just completely reshoot the video and expand on any number of topics that you choose. Now, to keep it super simple, we're going to anchor this presentation around these 3 points here. Some PC building tips, software and hardware that's relevant and really good for people starting from ground zero, as well as some test and tune steps. Now, when it comes to building a PC, there are 101 different ways to build a PC. I don't know all of them. All I know is what I've learned. Java. All I know is what I've learned based on my experiences studying at university to build computers professionally, as well as interacting with people who have asked for help with their PCs, as well as setting up my own stuff for streaming specifically. Again, these are just guidelines at best. It's not you have to do this, and if you don't do it, you fail. It is more, here are things to consider when building your PC, and this is what I would recommend as a baseline level of knowledge. Now, whenever you go into like a Walmart or a PB Tech or a Playtech or any store that sells computer parts and things like that, you'll have a whole rainbow of different parts that start different price points, do different things, and will be either really good for you or really bad for you. The easiest way to step around that is to be really objective with how you approach these sorts of stores. Because the last thing you want to do is spend money when you really don't need to. Now, whenever you've seen a gaming PC, you've probably seen something like this, or some really fancy case. You've also probably seen someone with like a multi-monitor setup. You've probably seen a whole bunch of gamers use like, fancy light up LED keyboards, and you've also like heard multiple stories about people going through like water cooling and all of that, and you might think that to be a gamer, this is a standard, this is what you have to adhere to, and if you don't follow this, you are wrong, you are incorrect, and you will never be any good. The answer is wrong. A lot of what you see here really isn't necessary. Provided you build your computer well, provided you're not silly, provided you target specifically what you want to do, and steer clear of the bells and whistles, you can actually build a decently powered PC for not that much money. If you're just starting out as a streamer and you're not 100% sure if this is something that you want to do, but you want to get into gaming either as a hobby or to stream it live to Twitch, a setup like this is virtually ideal. You pretty much have your PC, your screen where you can play games on, your keyboard, your mouse, and hopefully a solid internet connection. Really, that's all you need. Now, as far as actually building that PC, I could do an entire class on the specifics of what you need to know when it comes to individual testing, when it comes to selecting components, when it comes to building, testing, updating, all of that things. And that would have been relevant a couple of years ago. The great thing about building computers now is everything is so silky smooth that, generally speaking, provided that you don't do something horrendously stupid like try to put an Intel processor on a AMD motherboard, you should be fine. Honestly, building computers nowadays is really, really easy. In fact, there are a number of websites specifically in the Americas, and by Americas I mean USA, not Americas as in the south of that continent, that will allow you to pick and choose parts to put together. Now, when it comes to actually selecting individual hardware, what I'd recommend is find the individual game that is going to require the most out of your PC. Like the most intensive game that you want to play, and then you want to base all of your specs on the recommended PC requirements, and then on top of that you want to add 20 to 30% if your budget allows for it. What this will do is a couple of things. It will add a certain level of certainty that the game that you're wanting to play will run smoothly, and will also do what's called future-proofing, which is it will set up your PC potentially to run more intense games that come out later down the track, and it will also prolong the life of your computer, so you're not having to rebuild it every time a new game comes out. Can you get away with building on minimum PC requirements? Yes, you can, but that's going to, again, limit the lifespan of your PC. But if that's all you have the budget for, there's still 101 different games that you can play. You can be very successful on minimum PC requirements, but as someone who has gone through the process of speccing PCs for PC people, as well as going through a study of actually building PCs, I would always recommend 20 to 30% on top of the recommended PC requirements of the most intense game that you're planning to play, and at least in terms of hardware specifications. Now, once you've got all of that, again, just to reiterate, liquid cooling, you don't need it. Air cooling, as it stands, both in the past and now, is still really, really good for the vast majority of people. The only time you'll need to do liquid cooling is if you're planning to do what's called overclocking, which I wouldn't recommend for new people, because you can very easily screw your hardware if you're not careful. RGB, again, not needed. That's just fancy lights on your computer that really don't serve any real purpose. But, if it's in your budget and you really, really want to do it, nothing wrong with styling. But if you find that budgets are an issue for you, maybe RGB is something you want to avoid. And last point I just want to bring up is buying the best of the best of the best of the best will burn through your money very quickly. Buy what you need, buy what you can afford. Do not buy the top of the line stuff, because there's very little chance that you'll actually end up needing all that hardware. If all you're planning to do is like play Minecraft or something. Now, when it comes to monitors, again, you can get away with streaming on a single monitor, but I highly, highly, highly recommend that you buy a second monitor so that you can have your OBS displayed on that, so you can check your settings and change them on the fly, as well as monitor your chat as well. When it comes to your internet connection, copper basic internet connections such as broadband, still really good. You can still do some neat things on that. But if you can swing it, try to get an unlimited fiber plan. With fiber-based options that I've seen throughout the world, it is by and large the way to go. But that may not always be an option for you, or you may not be able to afford it where you are. So just note that if all you can afford is broadband, you can still do some amazing things on that. But do consider the swing to fiber if you can do it. And the last thing is eBay. And I'm going to need 2 sips of coffee for that one, because that's a conversation and a half. So, if you've had to build PCs at all, or you've noticed that PC prices are, let's say, concerningly expensive, that's not you assuming. That has actually been a trend over the past couple of years, because what's happened in recent times is, with the rise of cryptocurrency, with the rise of people going into gaming as a career, or content creation as a career, the availability of parts has been less and less and less. So that means, consequently, the price, because of demand outweighing supply, that causes the price to go up and up and up. Now, you might think, well, I can't find this part I want on, say, what's an American-based store that sells parts? I'm going to go with eBay. Just because it's... No, not eBay. I need a reputable place. I can't find the part I want at Walmart, for example. However, I can find the exact same part on eBay for less than half the price. Well, that's not stopping you from buying that, but there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. Specifically when it comes to things like, CPU, RAM, and motherboards. If that's been used in a Bitcoin mining rig, they're probably been under a lot of stress for a lot of time, which means there's a very good chance that they're either breaking or about to break. And even if that weren't the case, when it comes to buying those components that are known to fail under excessive use, especially RAM, hard drives, and graphics cards, there are a number of tests that you can do to see if they're faulty. But unless you know what those tests are, and unless you know how to interpret those tests correctly, I would highly recommend avoiding eBay. Now, if you know those tests, if you know what those tests are, and you know how to correctly interpret the results of those tests, avoid anything that was involved in a mining rig, avoid anything that was involved in a server, and if someone has quite clearly been using it the game all day, every day for the past, 3 years, probably not worth your time. So proceed with caution, is all I'm trying to say. But in saying that, when I was learning how to build PCs, I actually built most of my early PCs. In fact, all of them, actually, apart from one that got gifted to me out of just spare parts. Now, I was quite fortunate that I lived down the road from someone who actually helped me fault find a lot of the errors that I was having, but, I learned a lot from that experience, and I can tell you, for the average person, I do not recommend doing that. Like, as someone who's very into fiddling with their hands and fault finding errors in computers, I find a lot of joy out of that, but I'm also aware that I'm a very unique individual, and that's something that I, find pleasure in. For someone who wouldn't find pleasure in that, it is a lot of stress, a lot of time, a lot of fault finding, and a lot of being aware of the fact that you can spend all this time and money for what seems to be like a good part, and then that part will actually be faulty or not usable, and then you have to spend a lot more time to either find an equivalent replacement or to become brutally aware of the fact that that part's no longer available to you. So, save yourself some heartache, buy new where you can, but if you feel like you're skilled enough to go through all that, you can. If you're very lucky and very careful, save some money. But definitely not for the faint of heart, I can assure you of that. Now, when it comes to software and hardware, OBS, industry standard for streaming software. If anyone tells you to use Streamlabs, politely tell them no, I am fine. Now, the reason I recommend OBS is because it does everything that you could ever ask a streaming software to do. It'll record your stuff, it'll send your stuff to Twitch or YouTube or Facebook Live, and it will not eat your resources to death, much like Streamlabs does. Now, when it comes to setting up OBS originally, we'll touch bases on that more later on in the presentation, but just when you're starting out, and this is purely as part of the testing tool, which is going to become more talked about later on, set your resolution to 1280 by 720 when you're running the configuration wizard. Always run the configuration wizard first off before you do anything else, just to see what OBS says your ideal settings are from where you are to where you're wanting to stream to, be that Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. When you're going through the process of setting up OBS for the first time as a VTuber, you probably won't have multiple scenes set up. But if you find that you want to go down the route of having like overlays and like start screens and chatting screens and game capture screens and then on hold screens, definitely invest some time into setting up hotkeys. Now, for me, I find that with my keyboard, I never touch the numpad at all. I've never had a need to touch it. I don't use any games. In fact, I think the last game I had that actually required the numpad was this really obscure space-based flight simulator from like Windows 95. And that's decades ago that I had to do that. So it pretty much just sits there on you. So I just bind each individual scene to like a different number on my numpad, and it works fine. I've never had an issue, unless of course I accidentally try to type a number in on my keyboard and then it just goes zoot zoot badoop into different scenes. That makes me mad, because I'm like, oh god, I should know better than that, and then like I lose 10-15 minutes of footage accidentally. Not fun. But it's also really great because it'll allow you to have it where you can have it where you're not ready to stream just yet, but you want to let people know that you're streaming soon, so you can have like your stream start screen, and then you can transition into your game capture screen. And if you need to like step away for a couple of minutes, like I always have to do, you have like your on hold screen, which I also use as my stream ending screen, and it's a whole lot of different options. And that's a lot to take on when you're just trying to figure out OBS and Twitch. Stick to one scene for now. Yes, these are more professional ways to do it, but like I've said at the very, very start of the presentation, this is all about baby steps. It's all about getting the knowledge together to get ready to do the next big thing. So when you're just starting to use OBS, that's when you're going from I am just streaming games to myself to I am now streaming games to a community. So every little bit of complexity you add on top of that adds another layer of stress. So just for now, I'd recommend just sticking to a scene much like the one I have here, where it's just you're capturing something, either a game or a presentation. Excuse me. You have like a chat window and you have your avatar. And to get started, that is the barest of bare minimums. In fact, I could take it a step further, get rid of the overlay completely, which I'll just do now for giggles. I could have it where this is the only thing displayed. And I'm not going to, because I don't want to futz up my string, but this is more than enough. In fact, I could do this, and hey, here I am, here's my stream. Look at me, I'm a fuzzy guy. And that'd be enough, because when you just start streaming to OBS, there's a lot of different things you're going to figure out about yourself. You're going to figure out when I can stream, when I can't stream, what I want to stream. And once you start answering the big question, once you get the answers, for the big questions around what sort of content you want to put out, when you want to put it out, and if and how and when you reach out to other people, that's when all of the things like your avatar, that's when all of the things like your overlay, how you structure it, how you style it, or color theory. That's when all of those questions, which are really important things long term for you to answer, will become easier to not only answer but find solutions for. So, baby steps, stick to one scene. When you feel like you're ready to grow, or you get the feeling from your community or people who are aware of you that you need to change things, that's when you worry about the next step. But if you're concerned and you want a more structured time frame as to when you should make that step, again, this is just a recommendation. I'd say try to have it where for the first month, you stick to just one scene, like the one you see in front of you. And then after that month, have a sit down, look at all of the content you've created and go, okay, is another scene relevant for me? Do I need to do overlays? Do I need to change up how I do things? Do I need to do things that I see other VTubers do? And be very realistic about the goals that you have, because much like in VTubing, much like in life, however, all of your success will be goal specific. And if you'll oftentimes see VTubers do crazy, wonderful things, and you may feel like you're missing out, or you may feel like you're falling behind the 8 ball. Again, and those times when you're feeling that sort of pressure, stop, breathe, and try to write down what it is that your goals are. And if what you see out there is something you're concerned about, that you feel like you're missing out on, or you feel like it's an opportunity that you've missed, if that specific thing does not line up with your goals, stop, breathe, and be honest about the fact that maybe right now at least that's not specific to you and you don't need to worry about it. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't ever do it, but just for now, when you're learning, don't get stressed out. Baby steps. Take it day by day. You will know when you are ready. It is not something that I can tell you. It is not something anyone can define for you. It will be goal specific, but at least for the first month, at least, try not to overcomplicate things. Now, when it comes to your avatar, this is something that you will, generally speaking, set up as a game capture source. The only difference, and I can't recall how I did it because I haven't had to use it in a while, is if you use something called reactive.io. I'm fairly sure that's a browser source that you put it in under sources, but I could be wrong. And the last thing I'd recommend is when it comes to audio levels, unless you have a very specific reason, do not turn monitoring on onto the audio mixer. If you're that concerned about whether your audio settings are correct, what you want to do is you want to not stream to Twitch, but you just want to set up your stuff as you're going to stream, and then as opposed to you hitting start streaming, you're going to hit start record, and then you're going to pretend that you're streaming to an audience. You're going to have all your audio set up. You're going to have both in-game and on OBS. You're going to have all of your mic. Hey, Satsuna VR. Nice to see you again. We're just going over basic infrastructure when it comes to VTubing, some things that you need to be aware of, and just recommended stuff when it comes to OBS. How's your day going so far? Oh, that's good. That's good. So, yeah, anyway, hit start record. Pretend that you're streaming to a bunch of people. You want to have all your audio settings set up, and then you're just going to spend, say, I'm doing great, by the way. Thank you for asking. Well, maybe not great. I had a bit of a crap day at work, but, again, what can you do? That's just work. It's just how it is. I don't like what happened, but, again, I need to be consciously aware of the fact that certain individuals at work are who they are, and I can't change how they react to certain situations, but what I can change is I can be aware that everything I've done today is correct. I can be aware of the fact that every step that I've taken is in line with company policy, and that nothing I did wasn't to meet a company objective. And the fact that they were mad that I wasn't where they wanted me to be, even though I was taking care of something, isn't my fault. That's more reflective on them not wanting to go to other people for work, as opposed to just going to me because of their own reasons. But The day is over. I'm going to another job interview tomorrow. So objectively, even though I may feel like crap now, I am doing okay. I may not feel like it at the moment, but this is just a feeling I'm having today. Tomorrow, it's going to be gone. I just need to vibe. Anyway, so that's why you will not want to use monitor audio, because generally speaking, monitoring your audio isn't really relevant. The only time I need to monitor my audio through the audio mixer is when it comes to stream music, which I'm not using now. I think I still have it set up. Yeah, there we go. So you'll probably hear through the audio now that I have a bunch of music from an artist called Pogo set up. Now, when I was first testing and tuning before I actually streamed anything to Twitch, I was also aware of the fact that a bunch of other streamers use stream music as well. So what I would do is I turn the audio monitoring on specifically for audio output and stream music, just to see if one cancelled out the other. Again, that's just me doing that because I used to use PA discs. You can you can do the same thing if you want, or you can not do that and do a recording and get a more complete picture of what's sounding louder and what's sounding quieter and what you may need to change. But again, that's something that's specific to you and something that you'll need to test and tune over time. Before you do anything to Twitch though, always do a recording. Try to get everything as polished as you can, because let's be honest, your first time streaming to Twitch probably isn't going to be that great, so be prepared for failure. But like Bob says, there are no mistakes, just happy little accidents. Everything we do when it's not as correct as we want it to be is just another opportunity to learn how to do things better. And that's what you should be focused on when you're just starting out. Not trying to be perfect, but trying to be better, because when you focus on those sorts of things, you'll find way more success, and your life will be easy cheesy. Now, when it comes to the avatar side of things, there are a bunch of paid software that you can use. You've probably seen people use Live 2D, you've probably seen people use 2D Cubism, and you've probably seen a bunch of people say, I spent such and such a grand on insert 3D model here. I'm not saying don't do it. If you have the money to burn, and you can actually afford to spend money on an artist, be my guest. Like we've said in previous videos, and like we'll discuss now, there are pros and cons to each. These, however, as far as I've been able to assess based on personal use, based on testing and tuning in stream, based on the impact that I know it will have for multiple people around the world, these are the programs that I'd recommend just to test and tune. They are by and large free, you don't need to invest much into them. But even though I've used both, for the purposes of the rest of this presentation and the rest of this series as well, we will be focusing purely and only on Viadoto, and there are a couple of good reasons for that. First, I use it quite frequently, so I'm very aware of how it works, what can go wrong with it, and also, you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. Unlike Live 2D Cubism, Viadoto just uses a set of static images. So this is like a rough screenshot of how I have Viadoto set up at the moment. So what you see in front of you is a bunch of images that is basically eyes open, mouth closed, eyes open, mouth open, eyes closed, mouth closed, and I also have another image set up here with eyes closed, mouth open. The great thing about this is with Viadoto, much like with other streaming software out there when it comes to doing a virtual avatar, it comes with a default model. You don't need to spend any money on it. You can use that and you will be fine. It will be great. It'll be easy. It'll be cheesy. It'll be bueno. In fact, I think I still have my old model set up. I'll just bring that up so you can see the horror show of what it is that I started out with. Just careful. There it is. Haha. I'll just resize this. Apologies for the trippy graphics. It has been a while since I've used it. So this is what I used when I first started out. It's just, you know, that meme guy, Wojak, from way back when. If you've ever been on 4chan, you've seen him. And I had it set up with just 2 images, mouth open, mouth closed. The reason I did this is because I wasn't immediately familiar with the software, and I was just learning how to do OBS. I was just learning how to do Twitch, and I needed something. It didn't need to be flashy, it didn't need to be anything immediately impressive, because I was just trying to solidify both what I was as a streamer and who I was, as well as a couple of other things relating to when I was streaming, what I was streaming, what platform I was going on, because I was deciding between YouTube and Twitch. I still am to a point, and this is more than enough. In fact, you could probably do something quite similar and get a very good understanding as to if VTubing is right to you, right for you, as well as a pretty good head start. Now, obviously I didn't stick with this forever. I think for the first couple months I stuck with this because I just wanted to get around VTubing, understand it and all that lovely jubbly. But when I felt as though VTubing was definitely something I wanted to do long term, and I was comfortable enough to spend some more money on it, I contacted an artist and did a set of 4 images like I explained before, and eventually I switched to this model. Now this little guy is pretty much based around my core principles as a VTuber. I didn't want to be presented as anything that I wasn't. I wanted it to be a relatively one-to-one example of who I was as a person, and I also wanted to be related to a swan dry because I live in New Zealand. Swan dries are pretty common when it comes to farming, and it's something I grew up seeing a lot of where I was because I was in a farming community. So I went to my artist, I said I needed all 4 of those images I mentioned before: eyes open, mouth open, eyes open, mouth closed, eyes closed, mouth closed, eyes closed, mouth open. I said I wanted a sloth, I wanted it to be cartoon, and I wanted it to include a swan dry. In fact, just a little fun tip that I've not told anyone, and that will tell you because you're streaming now. Originally, this was supposed to have a set of sunglasses, but when my artist sent through the demo art without the sunglasses, it actually looked way better without them. So that actually wasn't included in the final version. In fact, it even wasn't even included in the final draft. It's just, this is as you see it. But yeah, that is what I have now. It works, it's great, and I think this set of images, I forget what I paid for it, but it was something like $150 for a set of 4, which may sound like a lot of money, but when you get into things like fully worked models such as Live 2D, when you get into 3D models, the prices are going up and up and up and up and up. I've seen prices as low as $400 to $500 just for the rigging alone, and I've seen prices as high as 10 grand to 15 grand, and that covers everything from your rigging to your model to your art to your concept sketches. It gets pricey. It gets really pricey, and whenever people start talking about this, yes, it is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. So I bring up the money side of things now because when it comes to VTubing, you've probably heard that people make a lot of money off it, and that is true. People do make a lot of money off it, but before you get to that point, let me rephrase it. When you're starting from ground zero, to get to the point where you're making a lot of money takes years. The reason that's important is you need to start thinking about, if you're wanting to do this as a career, you need to start thinking about what's called return on investment, which is basically when you ask yourself 2 key questions. 1, when will the investment I've made, for this we'll refer to the model, when will the investment I've made in my model be fully paid off, and at what point will that model actually start making me money? Now, when it comes to ROI, that's actually a monetary calculation that you can actually do. The problem is when you're starting out, you'll pretty much very, very rarely receive any money from your streams because you'll need to reach minimum, I believe, affiliate on Twitch before you can actually start earning money from bits. And even if you do something like Ko-Fi, that's not guaranteed that you'll actually receive any money from that. In fact, I have received money from it to go towards KSP2, which is cool. I'm super appreciative of that, but that is after about 8 months of streaming, and that was only like $5, which again, I am super jazzed that someone's interested enough in my content that I decided to invest $5 into me, because that is fantastic. That shows that I'm doing something right. But $5 does not buy you a 15 grand model, so your ROI when you start out is going to be horrendously shit. I apologize if swearing offends you, but that is the reality of the situation. It's not going to be great. It's going to be horrendously shit. And unless you have stacks and stacks of cash, steer clear of buying a model for now. Go down the 2D route and start investing from there. I recommend Viadoto because it's the cheapest option out there. It can be as little as $0 or upwards of $150, at least in my experience, and is great for everyone because not only is it cheap, but when compared to Live 2D, when compared to VC Face, it is the least intensive thing that your computer could possibly run. So it's cheap, it's lightweight, and it's ideal for people who are starting out. So Viadoto, it's great. Now, you might have heard at this point, I've mentioned overlays. You're like, well, why haven't I talked about overlays? Overlays are important. I see lots of streamers run them, and yes. Overlays are great. Overlays are awesome. Overlays also require that you know a lot about who it is that you are as a VTuber, because with overlays, unless you know what it is, unless you know a lot about how to describe. See, I'm trying to. It's not that I think you're dumb. It's just when I think about things that I'm passionate about and how to condense that passion down into a digestible format, it does get quite tricky. And that's not a reflection on you. It's just a reflective on me. Don't feel too bad about that. I lost my train of thought. Overlays. So, like I've said before in the stream, you do not need an overlay when you're starting out. It is not a requirement. You just need to be able to stream the game that you're playing, as well as have a virtual avatar like the one I'm using now, or the one based on the art that you're trying to put out. But, at least in my experience, how easy to put out. The reason I recommend not to do it straight away is because overlays look best when they're based around the theme of your character. So, I'll just bring them up again. So my guy's major theme is he's relaxed, he's very beige in nature, he doesn't stand out, and he's just there to chill, but he is there to be noticed. So everything from the text to the rounded boxes to excuse me, I have a bit of gas, to how I've indented things, to how I've laid things out, is very much designed to be less clutter, more simple, but still stylized. And that's just based around the styling that I prefer at this point, and all that is based off of my avatar. So that's not to say that you can't create an overlay without basing it on your avatar. It's just not something I would recommend, because unless you're planning to pay the money to get someone else to do it, it can be a bit tricky to do it yourself unless you have the styling of your avatar down packed. But the great thing about streaming as it sits today is there are multiple different ways that you can go through things like stream elements, things like Canva, things like I forget the name of the site, but it's a pretty dodgy one that I won't recommend. But there are multiple different sites where you can even go to freelancers to develop it for you without having to reference the styling of your character. But again, when you're just starting out, remember, baby steps. Start from basic, build on your experience, and when you feel like you're ready to go up, go up. Now, when it comes to actually doing all of that, here are a couple of different things that I'd recommend for you to consider. The only thing I haven't mentioned on here is a photo editing software, and that's because there are a couple of different ones out there. Obviously, the one that you've heard of is Photoshop, been an industry standard for years, and it will continue to do so. But if you don't want to spend the money on Photoshop, there is a free version called GIMP, which I use personally myself. It is great and perfect for doing little niche jobs, which we'll touch on later in the which we'll touch on later in the presentation. Now, when it comes to doing things like chat boxes, when it comes to doing things like stream alerts, whether it be someone following you, whether it be raid alerts, whatever that may be, I always, and I cannot stress this enough, always recommend that people go to Stream Elements, because that is far and wide, based on all the sites that I've used, based on ease of use, the single best site for doing overlays. If you want to do a chat box, you can do a chat box in Stream Elements. If you want to do like everything that you see in front of you now, apart from the actual design of the overlay itself, is something that I've done in Stream Elements. Now, Streamlabs has a bunch of things going for it, which we'll touch on later. You can do, if you just want a chat box set up over your stream, and you're not doing things like overlays, right? And it's pretty much just and it's pretty much just, I'll just futz around with this. If it is just, all of this, and the only thing in the background is what it is that you're streaming, what you can do is you can go onto Streamlabs, you can copy the URL for their chat box, you can paste that into your sources as a browser source, and you can just have your chat box anywhere in your stream. And that'll work great for you. That'll be great because you can stream your game, you can have people's chat messages showing up on stream, which people love, by the way. Really handy tip. Do get a chat box on stream at a bare minimum, because people love it when their chat messages show up on stream. 100%. And that's great if you just want to do that. However, when it comes to designing, and I've done all of my design from the overlay that you see now, that's something I did entirely in Canva. Every single ad that I've done for my streams, I've done in Canva. And as well as the other overlays, I believe from here, I've done this in Canva. Everything from this next stream, which I'll just bop into. I did that previous scene in Canva. Provided you're a bit creative, Canva is a very useful tool. It can serve a multitude of different purposes. So definitely after this stream and after this video, I'd recommend you looking into it and investing some time into figuring out how it can help you, because the great thing is not only is it a really useful tool for designing stuff, it's also free. So use it, abuse it, you'll thank me later. In fact, I think there was another thing which I'll show you right here in live demo time. So up until this point, we've been doing a shite load of theory. And that's great. Theory's good. It gives you the details that you need to know. It gives you the book warning, book learning, which is great. But now we're going to go through a couple of live things. Different ways you can use different software, as well as different things to be aware of. Now I'll just switch over here. I will just turn this on. Haha! We are into infinity. Okie dokie. So, you'll probably see in front of you this window here. Now this is what Canva will look like. With Canva, I highly recommend that you sign up with your email. I use Google myself because I'm logged on to Google with everything, and that just works for me. If you find that you're logged on with insert email provider here, you can use that. I'm not saying you can't, but to me it's easier to sign in with Google with everything. So, let's see, what are we going to look at today? Let us look at a couple of different ways to schedule things. So, if you've been watching the previous video, you've probably seen me recommend different ways to schedule things. And you probably saw this image right here. This is something that I made in Canva from scratch. And it was super easy to do, because the great thing is, remember how I said most of everything that you'll do, at least by my recommendations, will be based on the styling of your avatar. When you upload an image to Avatar, such as, excuse me, just a bit of gas, such as my avatar here, what Canva will do is that it will pick the color, it will do a color recommendation based on that image. So when you go to insert something like, say, let's pick an element here, and you go to change your color, it'll go, oh, these are the colors that we recommend based on this image. And you can pick and choose different colors based on what you think is appropriate. And that's what I've done. And it's worked great for me personally. You may not find that you particularly like that and you want to go down a different route. And again, that's fine, because creativity is entirely subjective. You don't have to do anything I tell you to if it doesn't fit within your creative view. But again, this is just me recommending things. Woosah. Now, let's take another step back and look at something else, because I do believe that we were talking about overlays. Now, this is just something that I've created myself. Now, it may look like a bit much to design, and it is, because you may see a bunch of indents like this, like you'll see this box here, and then you'll see that there's this little thing right here. Is that still streaming correct? Hey, I didn't hit the change scene button again. What are you talking about? So you'll see that this thing here looks like it's been indented into this larger box. The reality is, I didn't do that. What I did is that I pretty much did a box here with a black border and this color here, and all I did was paste boxes without a border over top of the edges with this background color and nothing else, to give it the illusion that's been dented into the, well, indented, technical term, into the box itself. Now, when it comes to the chat box, for me, I've decided to leave that as a solid color, because that makes it easier for me to overlay a transparent chat box onto it without it looking a little bit scuffed. The only thing I did a little bit different is you'll probably notice that this window here is a gray box with a black outline. Gray box with a black outline. And there's a very specific reason I've done that. So, when it comes to doing overlays, stream elements, and again, I'll only be touching on stream elements in this stream. If you want to go over Streamlabs, again, let me know. I'm active on Twitter, TikTok, Discord, and I'm active on Twitter, TikTok, Discord, and YouTube, and right here at home on Twitch. Send me a message if you want to do a want me to do a run through of Streamlabs, what it can offer you, why I don't think it's that great, and I'll be more than happy to touch on it. The only reason I'm not doing it in this stream is because the entire goal of this series is basics and broad strokes. So I won't be going over every single niche little thing. I'll just be doing what I would recommend as a base level of understanding to get yourself up and running. So, when it comes to this, there are a bunch of different things you'll do. So when you go to create, let's do a little bit more. This will be a little bit more professional about this. When you log on to Stream Elements, you will probably be asked to set up an account. Make sure you are logged on to Twitch or Google, because what that will do is, if you're logged on to Twitch, and I'll just use Twitch as an example because I don't use YouTube, and you set up an account with Twitch, Stream Elements, when it comes to the chat box specifically, will be able to log on to Twitch with your account, read your chat messages, and then display that through the overlay, which sounds complicated, but is actually a pretty simple thing, which we'll touch base on later. It'll also be able to pick up when someone's sent through a raid, when someone's followed you, and then it will display that as an alert. So that sounds like a lot of complicated things, and it really is. It is and it isn't. It depends on your technical savviness. So we're going to start from ground zero, just so you can see what it's like to set up a overlay from absolutely nothing. So we're going to go back into Canva. And this is the overlay. We've just spent hours making it. We're sure that it's good for what we want to do. It's easy, it's breezy, it's simple. We're then going to make sure that GIMP is open. And while GIMP is loading, we're going to go to share. We're going to hit download. We're going to download it as its default resolution. Again, if you want to get really technical about this, very, very, very technically, the quote-unquote correct resolution to download this as under 1080p is 1280 by 720. But that is for people who care way too much. We're not going to do that. We're just going to keep it simple. We're then going to go to our downloads folder. Now that GIMP is open, hopefully, hey, it's open. We're going to take this image, we're going to drag it into GIMP, and that's great. Now, can anyone tell me what the problem here is? I'll just give you a couple minutes to see if you can figure out what the problem with that was. Because there is a problem. I'll give you a hint. It's this big grey thing. Nothing? Okay. So, if I were to just drag this into Stream Elements and go, this is my overlay, deal with it. Very, very technically, I could set it up in OBS where it will display my game capture over top of that. But the problem is, if I were to do that, all those rounded edges wouldn't actually be there. So it would display, I would either have to resize it so it would fit within this border, which would mean you'd get a little bit of gray space here, or I'd have to stretch it where it went over top of this box, which would effectively cut out half of my title, which I don't want. So how do we solve this? Well, what we do is we make this gray section here disappear, but we also make the image transparent, which in layman's terms is we're going to have it where this image, once we send it out of GIMP and into its own photograph, quote unquote, this gray section will be completely transparent. If it's put in front of something in OBS, it will display anything behind it, but only where this gray space was. So how we make this gray space transparent is we right click here, we go add alpha to section, we then grab our handy dandy select tool, we select only the gray stuff, and again, if you want to get really, really technical, the next step you need to do is you need to zoom in on each individual element after you've hit delete and gotten rid of it, and you need to make sure that there aren't any artifacts, because sometimes when you are doing this, you'll see stuff like here, which is like a bit of gray and stuff like that. If I wanted to get really, really, really fussy about it, I spend a bit of time going over getting rid of all this gray stuff, and if you want to do that, you can. It is your overlay. You can do with it as you wish. But again, what is the key step? What is the key tenet? Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Keep it cheesy. Because you are here to learn. You are here to grow. You are here to set yourself up as a VTuber. You are not here to overcomplicate things right here, right now. Because too much of everything that you'll learn at one time will make this not a very fun thing for you. And you don't want that. Streaming, either to a group of people or to a group of thousands of people, can be a ridiculously fun experience. But the more harder you make things on yourself, the less fun it will be. So, personally, that irks me, but we're going to leave it alone because we're here to be easy, breezy, cheesy. So once we've done that, once we have made the grey section and only the grey section transparent, we're going to hit export as. Now, what you want to do is you want to have it where you save this in a folder that you can locate. Now, for whatever reason, Linux this follows the same sort of file structure that it does in Linux. Again, this is a bit much. I've never been able to successfully navigate this, so what I generally do, and this is just a bit of a trick from me to you, is I have everything saved under a folder. And so this is the folder that I use for all of my stream stuff. That's where that was. Oh, I've been looking for that. Yeah, so I have everything here for all my stream stuff, different images, different sounds, different recordings that I've done. I'm not releasing that unless I get to affiliate. As well as different licenses and different images. I save all of my overlays into what's called an overlay folder. I've just set this up for different projects and different stuff that I've done in the past. And what you can do is you can click this thing here, which is the technical term for this is the file directory, which is where everything is saved to. This will pretty much tell your computer that in this hard drive, in this folder, which is beneath all these other folders, is where I save all of my overlays. So you can copy that, you can go back to GIMP, you can paste here, and it will say no. Feck. Why is it not doing that? I did this last time. I am being the big dumb and I apologize. These nuts. Search for That's a problem with using stuff. Okay. Search. That's the trouble with using Linux-based solutions. It does get a little bit tricky. So instead, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to make things a bit easier on ourselves. We are going to create a new folder under D, and we're going to call this Overlays for Twitch. I apologize for this being a little bit scuffed. This, I can assure you, this worked last time. But this is the problem with using free software. Sometimes you have to test, you have to tune. So we're going to do Overlays for Twitch. We are going to export it. Why is it export? No. And we're going to make sure that it's going to be exported as a PNG. So we're going to do Communist Pop Tart, and we're going to name the file Overlay, and we're going to turn cruise control on because we feel a bit embarrassed for making a big dum-dum. We're going to hit export. Why? No, stop it. Dot PNG. Stop being a butt. God damn it. Okay, let us change this again. Export as. We are going to go back to D. We are going to go back to Overlays for Twitch. We are going to display it as Communist Portard. Overlay. Export. Overlay. Dot PNG. Okay, and we're just going to click everything. You don't need to click every single little thing, but we're going to do it anyway. Not that we have to, but no, this is, I am the captain now, and I say we click the things. even though it probably does nothing. I'm going to hit export, and hooray. Now, we're then going to go back to here. We're going to find our overlays, and we're just going to keep that open for now. We're then going to go back to stream elements. We're going to go new overlay, and we're going to set this to 1080p, which is default. It's fine, don't need to worry about it. And we're going to call this something jazzy, such as Mist Pop Tart Stream Overlay Test 1. Now this is just something that I'm doing specifically for this stream. When you're doing your own overlays, you want to make sure that whatever you name it is relevant to what you're going to use it as. So if you were, say, going to set this up as your game stream, for example, you do Communist Pop-Tart game scene, for example, if it were going to be something for just having it as a chat box, which I don't know the specific resolution for, but it will be something like chat box, which is where you just do all of the design purely and only for a chat box, and then you have it where stream elements just displays a chat box somewhere here. But for now, we're just going to call this game scene test 1, because we're testing a bunch of stuff. We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know what we're doing. So this is going to be our test scene. This is where we're going to test a bunch of things that stream elements can do for us once we've logged on through Twitch or YouTube. But we're going to be using Twitch as the example. So all you'll see in front of you is blank screen because we really haven't added anything yet. So the first thing we'll do is we'll add a widget. We'll then add a static image. We'll go set image, upload. We'll go back to our folder which has our overlay, drag, drop. Simple. Now we will need to do a bit of resizing, just a little bit, but don't freak out. Now you can see that I've already done a bunch of stuff here before. These are pretty much the same stuff as this, but we're going to use this one here. We are then going to resize it. And that's great. So we have the hardest thing done out of the way. We have our design. We have our overlay. Pretty much at least the base stuff of it done. Because what this will do is it'll show us where we're going to put our chat box. And we're going to have a discussion about where it's appropriate to put in the alert box. Because it may not seem immediately apparent as to why it may be a bad idea to put it into certain places. Now, when it comes to wanting to insert our chat box, we'll go back to the symbol here. We'll then go Stream Tools. We'll go Your Streams Chat. Whoa. Look at that. Look at that lovely stuff. We'll then resize it to fit comfortably within this window. We'll go back to position and style. No, we don't want position and style. We want settings. No. Layers. Your streams chat. Where are you? Secondary shadow. Position and style. Lovely, jubbly. Now let us see. We can't just test that just a little bit. Boop. Is that going to show up? Are we going to be lucky? Okay. Now, who can tell me what the problem with that is? It doesn't look especially great. At least in my opinion. So what we can do, if it will let us, stream elements, streams, dark chat. We can go custom, and this will naturally turn off any sort of background color, which is completely jazzy. That is what we want, because what is the goal? If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Simple, easy, breezy. Nothing more than what it absolutely needs to be. Text settings. Let's test that again to make sure it works. Because testing and tuning is one of the most important things. Aloha snack bar. And we appear to run into our first little problem. Can anyone tell me what that is? Would anyone like to take a guess what that problem may be? It's the text color, isn't it? So, what we can do is we can do a couple of very jazzy things. We can change the text color to white so it actually pops up. Whoop. Let's change that back. Get out of my sandwich. We can send a couple more messages just to make sure we've got it all set up. Such as he who Smith. He who Smith. But we don't like the size of that text, do we? It's not especially jazzy. We do not like it. What we do is we can make it larger. Very good. We like that. We can type in a larger message just to test if we've got it all running good. So much as space eggs fly west in the summer. I can and good shut it. Spacebound. Oh, I gotta laugh at my own humor sometimes, but we're pretty happy with that. We like it. We think that that's great. That's going to serve our purposes very well. So what we can do is we can hit save. Hooray! We've hit save. Overlay setup. It's all well and good. It's in Stream Elements. How do we get it into OBS? We click this widget here. What this will do is it will copy the web URL for and only for this overlay. The reason that it's important is because we are going to do a bit of OBS magic. Now, I happen to be a bit of a wizard when it comes to OBS. I can do a lot of different neat little tricks. One of the tricks I'm really, really good at is disappearing. Look at me. I've disappeared. You can't see me. So when you first set up your stream, this is actually what it's going to look like. Nothing's going to be there. Why is nothing going to be there? Because we haven't set it up yet. So, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to add a source. This will probably be the first thing that you do. No. Hey! So this is what it will probably look like when you first add something to Twitch. You'll probably add your own display capture. Again, that's fine. Now, if you don't want to capture your entire display and you only want something to display when you're playing a game, what you can do is that you can launch the game and you can add what's called a game capture, which will only see game cap 1 because it's the first one, and you can have it where no, that's image cap, I want game cap, naughty boy. You can have it where you go game capture, game cap 1, and you can either capture any full screen application, which I argue against, because that's kind of dangerous, especially when you're doing multiple different stuff. Or you can go set it to capture a specific window. But we're not going to focus on that right now. But if you did, you could probably just hit OK. And if you're doing like a multi-scene setup, you can just launch your game. We will open up Steam and we'll just select a game from random. Among Us. Why not? It's light, it's easy, it's cheesy. So Among Us will be launching in the background, but we want to display that on stream. So what we'll do is we'll hit our game capture one source. We'll go over here to window because we'll set it to capture a specific window. And then we'll go look for it. So where is Among Us? Where is it? Can you see it? Oh no, it's not showing up. What a shame. So when that happens, switch to another scene, come back in, and hopefully, if we're very, very like us, there it is. Hey, Among Us is now displaying. But here's a problem. The audio isn't coming through. And that's because when you set up OBS, it will naturally not put anything in. So you have to tell it that you want it to run the audio. You'll have to tell it that you want it to run the video. Now, I have a mic set up just here by default because I knew I was going to be searching between screens. But by default, the mic wouldn't be there. So what you would do is you'd go add source. You'll go add audio input capture. You'd call it something jazzy like my mic. And then you'd either go default, which is fine for most applications, or if you have a multi-mic setup, you try look for your mic specifically in here. Once you have that set up, it'll display here, and that's very jazzy. But we're going to get rid of that because it's quite loud. Yes. Now, again, I said before, the audio from the game will not come through by default. So what you need to do, you need to go add source. You need to go audio output capture. We'll call this game audio. Just because we feel like being especially spicy. And again, I generally recommend you do this to default. But I'm going to do it here just to test. To see if this will actually work. Oh no, it's not working. So what we can do is we can go default. Hey, there we go. Audio's coming through. How do we know it's working? Cool. Now, we have our mic set up. We have our game audio set up. We even have the game displaying. But we just set up a overlay. So, what we do when we've set up our overlay in Stream Elements, we then go to Browser. We then go add it. We're going to add it as a browser source. So we go to sources, browser. We're going to call it a test. We're going to call it, no, just going to call it overlay. Let's be simple. Oh no, our name's already in use. So we will call this very good. We will then paste the URL that we copied from Stream Elements in here. We'll then hit OK. Give it a couple of minutes. Oh no. What is wrong? That's not what's supposed to happen. We can then... Why would that be happening? I wonder. Go copy over the URL. Testing and tuning. Very jazzy. Properties. Why is that not working? Testing and tuning, tuning and testing. Let us test. Mm, 20 by... Hey, let's go. So what happened there is we did a little bit of a fucky wucky. So let us see if we can't just figure out what went wrong. So we had to do a bit of test and tuning. So, going back to stream elements, position, size, and settings. Aha! So we found it. So it was displaying its 800 by 600, so it's only displaying that portion of the image. But what we found is the image itself was larger than what it was actually trying to display, so we needed to enlarge it just a little bit. So what we did is we went to our overlay, we went to properties, and we used 1920 by 1080. And that's fine, because remember, no mistakes, just happy accidents, and we learn from those, and it's jazzy. So, we have our overlay. Our overlay is set up. And we know it's set up because pingus. Hey, it's set up. We can change it. We can make this a little bit bigger, and it's lovely and it's jubbly. But it's looking a little bit wonky. We don't like that. So what we'll do is we will enlarge it so that it fits comfortably in our screen. And that looks a little bit better. We'll then take our display capture, we'll ignore that, and we're going to resize our game capture so that it looks like it fits in right here. Lovely, jubbly, hold shift. We're going to get rid of our display capture because we don't need it. And you're good to go. So we can have Among Us running in the background. And that's really all you need to get started. Now, when it comes to introducing our avatar, well, that's something quite easy to do. What we'll do is I'll just resize this so you can see what I'm doing. As opposed to it being one grand mystery. We'll go to our display capture. Swoosh. Look at that. How great's that? We'll then go add as a game capture source. We'll call this VTube. Capture specific window. And we'll look for ViaDoTube. Where is ViaDoTube? I cannot see it. There it is. Wow. Gary and Google, Google and Gary. Which one said it? Let's find out. Hey, I'm feeling lucky. And we have that doing a bit of a fucky wucky. Come on, ViaDoTube. Don't let me down now. 'Cause Gary and Google. Google and Gary. Which?
And get with the beat.
Gary and Google. Google and Gary. Hit allow transparent. Okay. So we discovered another bug. Oh my goodness. What just happened? Well, we have to click allow transparency, because when ViaDoTube displays a avatar, the background will be transparent only if you have allow transparency turned on. So click that, under properties, hit OK, resize your shit. Boom. You can now turn this off, turn game capture back on, and be a sussy little shite. Da 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 da. Boom. We have a game displaying. And it's great, and it's easy, it's jazzy. Now, you probably would have also noticed that the actual game capture window itself, as you see it, doesn't look that great. So part of testing and tuning is a lot of what you do will involve changing a lot of this, which we'll touch on later. But really, if you want to get into the overlay side of things, that is a completely scuffed tutorial, and I do apologize for that, on how you can set up a very, very basic, very easy, very jazzy, whoop, hey, a very basic, just single option, like single scene setup. Now, when it comes to actually introducing a new scene, if you want to add another one, or you want to add your first one, you just go add scene here. This will add your scene, and then within that scene, you'll add all the stuff that we did before. Now that process does look a little bit involved, and I gotta be honest, for a first timer, especially from my own experience, it really was. But again, if you want me to do a slower version of it, if you want me to go more in depth on different little options, you're welcome to. Hit me up once I reach affiliate, or if you just need a bit of spot advice, I'm more than happy to do it. So, what are we doing next? So I've gone from the live demo, we've gone through a couple of things. We now have our stream set up. Now it's time for test and tune. So, we've gone through a little bit of test and tuning all throughout, but when I mean test and tune, what I mean is not just specific to when I mean test and tune, what I mean is not just specific to your settings in OBS. This will cover everything from how you've set up OBS, how you've set up Twitch, as well as testing your internet connection from where you are now to Twitch servers. Pretty much testing your connection to Twitch will be the biggest thing, which is why I've recommended that you go on the lowest possible resolution that most people use all the time on YouTube, because it's 1080p is more than decent enough quality for your first time streaming. And it'll be virtually ideal until you want to go into higher resolutions, which I don't recommend you do first up, because one, that's a lot for your computer to do all in one hit, and two, again, easy, cheesy, breezy. When you're streaming first out, don't stream for too long. During your first month is when you'll do a lot of your testing, tuning, a lot of figuring out what OBS does, a lot of the intricate faults that come with doing something like streaming to an audience. So you want to keep it short, because what you'll be doing during that first month is you'll be going through all of your different recordings on Twitch or YouTube, and you're going, this is where I went wrong. This audio setting isn't correct. I need to talk more. I need to talk less. I need to include different people from the audience. And the more footage you have to go over, the more work you have to do some really basic stuff. And just referencing back to testing and tuning, at least for the first month alone, record your stream on your PC and then compare it to your VOD on Twitch. Now, I'm personally at a point where I'm comfortable not recording to my PC, because I'm not yet jumping back into doing that level of content creation. Because what I do is I just record on Twitch and then I export that VOD to YouTube directly. Which again, not relevant to this video, but if you'd like me to cover that process, send me a message. When I reach affiliate, I'm more than happy to cover it. The reason you want to record on your PC and then compare it to your VOD on Twitch is what you see on your PC may not necessarily be what your audience sees. So you could have your game streaming absolutely great, but if you, and I'll just bring it up here, if you look in the little bottom corner here, you'll see this icon here. That icon is basically a general indication of what OBS determines to be your level of stream quality to Twitch. Sorry, brain's gone over place because I've been up for the past few hours doing day job in the sun. That icon represents your stream quality from your PC to Twitch. However, as you probably notice when you play games and you're streaming to a community, your attention is drawn on those two things and those two things alone. Unless you have massive attention span and you can focus on all of the things all at once, my hat off to you if you can actually do that, you probably will not notice that this thing can actually change throughout your stream. Because to start off, you might see it and it'll be green, it'll be great, but all throughout the stream, that actually might go from green to orange, or from orange to red, or from green to red, which will indicate that there is something going on causing whatever it is that you're streaming to not stream as at the same level of quality on Twitch servers. And that could be anything from your computer's being overloaded to the resolution of your game is higher than the resolution that you're streaming to Twitch, or a bunch of other issues could happen as well, such as you think your audio levels could be fine on your computer, but when you compare that to your VOD on Twitch, it actually sounds super quiet. So that's why it's important to compare those two things, because otherwise it can get very difficult to know whether you have everything set up as you want it rather than what it actually is. And again, just another point, adjust your audio settings to suit. Because how I would like to have it set up, and I don't have it set up right now, is I want my stream loading screen to have that audio marginally higher by a bit than my presentation stream, because you might hear some music playing in the background, but to me, that's a bit too quiet. If someone's just waiting for the stream to load, I want to have it where that audio is actually louder, so it's less awkward for them to just be sitting there and having to worry about, why is that awkward? I don't like that. Don't like that. Sorry, I'm just being nitpicky. I'd much rather have them give them something to vibe with rather than just sit there. So yeah, that's why taste and tone is super, super important, because never assume that everything is good, because you assume, it makes an ass out of you and me, and I'm not a donkey, and you aren't either. So be smart, be clever, test and tune. And once you have that all set up, the first few months will be hell, but it'll make you feel like this once it's all well and done. In fact, maybe even after the first stream, because you've gone through all of that effort to select the game you want to play, have your avatar set up. And you'll end up feeling like, well, if I've got to be honest, you'll feel like this guy. Happy Seal. You want Happy Seal. Happy Seal is best seal in history of world. By far. Can't beat it. Many great feelings. And that brings you to the end of the stream. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far through. I admit that the stream is actually significantly longer than my other streams, but again, we're covering a lot more in-depth stuff, so it sort of demanded that I go into much higher detail, which sounds contradictory, because all throughout this I've said broad strokes, broad strokes, broad strokes. But again, a lot more goes into this one section than any other section because of the stuff that you have to do. Now, before I sign off, I just want to say this one thing. This video, as I've just noticed it, because I've looked down at OBS, well, this video on the stream is about an hour and a half long. I wasn't planning to stream that long, if I gotta be perfectly honest. And you may look at the stream and you may feel like setting up OBS, doing overlays or not doing overlays, and importing different things and doing different audio levels and testing and tuning and logging on to Twitch and stuff like that. In fact, let's go over one more thing that I really should have covered on because I didn't, because I am the big dumb. One last thing I will cover. When it comes to OBS, and I really should have covered this, and I apologize for not doing it. Whoop. Is once you have your stream set up like this, and you're ready to stream to Twitch, you'll probably hear that you have to go through settings, like here, your, where is it? You're probably here. Someone mentioned something like a stream key. And that's something I should have brought up, and I apologize for not doing it. I am big naughty. You probably hear someone that you have to go through here, and you'll have to go to stream, and then you'll have to insert a stream key. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. What you want to do is you want to select whatever server that is you're wanting to go to. You want to make sure that you're logged on and you have your account details handy. And you want to have it where you, as opposed to going insert stream key, you want to have it where you are logged on to Twitch through OBS, and that way you don't have to worry about stream keys ever again. Stream keys can feck off. I think that it's important to know what it is and that you should never display or stream keys live, but going through the process of going settings, stream, and then logging onto Twitch through here will make your life drastically easier. Now, there are a couple of other options here you might want to futz with, and that's a bit advanced, but I'll go through them. This will handle things like, bit rates and stuff like that. This will be audio quality. This will be different resolutions, stuff like that. Don't fuck with that unless you know what you're doing. Because by default, you'll have it set up as, 1280 by 720 for just following this guide. But if you want to stream at 1920 by 1080, you do what you think needs to be done. This is your stream. What I'm doing is very scuffed, generalized advice. But yeah, that's how you actually integrate OBS into Twitch, because everything I've done will only set up OBS to stream, to record locally to your PC. Once you have that set up, you need to go through this process. Otherwise, when you go start streaming, it won't go anywhere because you haven't told OBS what it is that you want to stream to. Once you have that set up through the stream tab and settings, everything is great. One other thing that I would recommend is make sure your title is accurate to what it is that you're streaming as. Make sure that you have your go live notifications set up as something jazzy. If you're just doing something like I'm doing, just have it set up as just chatting. It's way easier. If you have a specific game that you want to, we'll just say Among Us, for example. It'll set that up and have a bunch of different tags set up already. If you feel like you want to add additional tags, scroll down further. Once you have that all set up, you can go hit done. You'll be great. And that is everything done for the stream. And I'm 99% sure I got everything done. Hopefully. So, thank you for joining the stream. It is a little bit longer. Apologize for not covering stream keys earlier on. I probably should have. That is my mistake. I'm only human. But we now know where that is. We now know where to find it. If you feel like this video or the stream needs to have different elements expanded on, if you feel like you want a specific niche part encyclopedically just thrown up all over a new thing, do let me know. I'm available on Twitter. I'm available on TikTok. I'm available on Discord. I'm available on YouTube. And I'm also right here at home on Twitch. If you're at one of my streams and you want to figure out how to contact me, you can type in !links. This will link you through to all of my socials. Okay. Don't be afraid. I don't bite. You can contact me virtually anytime. And unless I'm working or doing something crazy, I'll probably respond. Hopefully. Now, if you feel like being especially jazzy and you want to help fund future projects on this channel, you can type in !dono. This will link you through to my Ko-Fi page where you can yeet little bits of money on me to help fund future projects. I don't have anything specific that I'm saving for at the moment. However, having cash in reserve does make the possibility of upgrading my computer so I can play high definition games or funding different games more of a possibility. And if that's something that you'd like to donate towards, it is not compulsory at all. How I've set up my stuff as a streamer, I am more than capable of doing it under my own steam through my day job. I do not require your help. But if you feel like you want to make things a little bit easier, that is a way that you can do it. And if you can't do that, because donating isn't something that you're able to do. It is not something that you're financially capable of doing. Just note that your being here, whether it's for a minute, an hour, just to pop in and say hi, whether you're watching this live on Twitch or you're seeing this recording on YouTube, your presence means the absolute world to me. because my entire goal, and I sometimes forget this, and that's another fault of mine, is I want to have it where this stream, any video, anything that I do is entertaining or helpful to at least one person. That's it. I just want to help or entertain one person. And if that's all I've done, I call that a success. But thank you for joining in. I hope to see you on the next stream. We'll be re-recording this again later on in the week with hopefully a more polished feel. Tomorrow, I will be streaming another game at around 7:30 p.m. UTC 13, which is the time zone for New Zealand. So if you don't know what that will look like in your country, I'd highly recommend you Google World Clock, type in UTC 13, type in 7:30 p.m, and that way you can know in your time zone when it would be ideal to tune in for that stream. I hope to see you then. I hope your day goes well. I hope your day goes well. Stay frosty, and I'll see you again next time.